This happened 2 years ago on Halloween of 2023. I'm a 25-year-old male, but at the time of this story, I was 22. I had a long day of work because of a festival we had where parents brought their kids to the center for different activities like competitive games, a costume contest, trivia for candy, and a kids versus parents dodgeball game. Overall, it was a really fun time, but it was definitely exhausting. For context, I'm a community worker, so organizing community events is basically what I do regularly, but it's also draining, if that makes sense. Anyway, after everything was over, I went home ready to call it a night. About an hour after I got home, around 6-something, my little sister called me. My sister, who I'll call Elowen, wanted me to take her and my nephew, who I'll call Quillen, trick-or-treating because neither our parents nor Quillen's parents felt like doing it. And as usual, it fell on me to be the cool big brother to make it happen. Elowen was 15 and Quillen was 11. Even though I wasn't feeling it at all, I got up, threw some clothes on, and headed to my parents' house to pick them up. Once I got there, I asked if they were ready, but Elowen was still finalizing her costume. She was dressed as Raven from Teen Titans, even with the white makeup to get that ghostly look Raven usually has. Quillen was dressed as Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Once Elowen finished, we got in the car and headed out. I drove them to a busy neighborhood to make sure they got as much candy as possible. Once there, we started going from house to house. Everyone we met was friendly and had plenty of treats. One older man even gave them each a hot dog and a soda. He said every year he skips candy and grills food instead because he'd rather give kids protein since it's good for their bodies. Honestly, we need more people like that. We passed a lot of other kids, and some complimented Elowen and Quillen's costumes. I also noticed some really impressive costumes myself. Everyone in the area seemed to go all out. By the time we hit the last house, we started walking back to the car. It was about a 10-minute walk because we had gone pretty far down the neighborhood. The streets were quieter now, and there weren't many people around. That's why I was alarmed when I looked across the street and saw someone dressed entirely in black, standing in a yard with no porch lights on. I'm surprised I noticed them at all, but I always pay attention to my surroundings. On closer inspection, it looked like they were wearing a hooded cloak, all black clothing, and a mask covering their face. I honestly couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. Whoever it was seemed to be looking at us. I told Elowen and Quillen to stay close and said, "There's a suspicious person across the yard. Look, but don't stare." I said that so they could see who I meant without encouraging them to approach or follow. Quillen laughed and thought it was someone trying to spook people. Elowen, though, looked genuinely worried. For context, I was carrying a backpack with a Glock inside, and Elowen knew this, so when I told them to stay close, she probably realized I was serious. Quillen was clueless. He's too young to know I carry a real gun. As we walked, the person still seemed to be watching us. Closer to the car, I suddenly heard heavy footsteps behind us, boots hitting the concrete. I turned and saw the same person. Same all-black outfit, but now clearer. They had a tactical vest, tactical boots, black pants tucked in, a full spandex mask covering their face. That made it serious. Someone dressed like that? First thought, armed. He's following us, I thought. I whispered to Elowen and Quillen, "Listen carefully. Don't stop walking and don't look back. The person I mentioned is behind us. The last thing we want is to alarm them, so keep walking." I mainly focused on Quillen because he might not grasp how serious this was. Elowen understood completely. We kept walking, occasionally glancing back. The person stayed at the same distance. When we reached the car, they were still coming. I decided to make a bold move. I pulled out my Glock and pointed it at the person. I asked why they were following us. The person raised their hands as if surprised, then slowly removed their mask. It was a woman, probably in her 30s. She stared at me blankly. I asked again why she was following us. Her answer made no sense. In an almost robotic tone, she said, "I'm an undercover cop. I was told there was a break-in, so I came to check it out. When you looked at me funny, I assumed you did it, so it'd be wise to lower that weapon, or I could have you arrested for threatening an officer." I hesitated, then lowered my gun. What else could I do? I didn't want to risk an arrest or ruin the kid's night, but her story was inconsistent. I asked her, If you're undercover, why wear tactical gear? Doesn't that give away your law enforcement? And the cloak? She didn't answer. Her expression changed. Malicious. Irritated. I didn't believe her. Then she smiled that creepy smile. If you didn't have that gun, this night would have ended very differently for you. At that moment, 4 figures appeared from between houses, all in tactical gear, no cloak. I told Elowen and Quillen to get in the car. I got in and drove off. The woman still smiled. The others had blank, soulless faces. The car ride back was silent, kids in shock. I dropped them off safely, then went home to process everything. Why target us? The neighborhood was full of people. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number, a photo of my car in my apartment lot. I contacted the police. They filed a report, but couldn't investigate without a direct threat. Out of curiosity, I went to the house where I first saw her. A man in his 40s answered. No break-ins, he said. He went to bed early and didn't notice anything. I thanked him and left. I already knew the undercover story was fake, but wanted my own investigation. Whoever they were, they knew my phone number and where I lived. Were they watching me? Planning something? Being armed that night probably saved us. 2 years later, I still think about that night. Writing this helps. Always watch your surroundings. You never know who's watching. Stay safe and protected.